Hey guys, Matthew here. In the last video we did spherical mapping and we did these little blobs that are holding up the table. So you'll notice that while you were gone I textured these and they're not looking quite right, and this one is looking quite poor. If we look at it in detail, you'll notice that first off the texture is out of scale, but secondly that the objects don't blend properly in the way they should. So let me find a good example of this. So see, this texture is going this way, and then all of a sudden it starts to go down this way. So we need to actually create a custom mapping to deal with that problem. And the trick is to say where you don't mind it to actually have a seam, and in the instance of this object, the seam can be the bottom here because we're never going to see the bottom. So I'm going to select my object, and I'm going to select the Unwrap tool. And I'm going to unwrap it at the point where I'm never going to see it, which is right there. And I'm going to press OK, and it'll say UV texture coordinates were successfully unwrapped. Use the UV editor to make changes. While we're here, I'm going to move my floor down so it's not intersecting my table. Easier said than done. There we go. And I can see the bottom part there. So very unlikely that I'm going to render it at that angle, but if we come back to our properties, you'll see there's a UV editor tool, and when I click on it, it asks me to draw a rectangle. I'm going to draw my rectangle over here. You'll notice that the object has gone black, and we see two kind of nets on our texture. So this is where we can begin to actually play with the scale of objects. Well, the scale of the texture. So if I scale the nets up, the texturing of the object will get smaller. So say I want it to be about that big, I can just then apply the mapping by just clicking the apply button here under the UV editor. Let's go OK. And if we zoom in, you'll notice that the texture now seamlessly goes from one side to the other. So it's pretty much the basics of the Unwrap tool and the UV editor. So if we look at our table here, we could have done the same thing with the bottom part there. And if we look at our spherical mapping guys, and we actually ask for their UV editor and draw their rectangle, you'll notice that it has a very, very specific type of mapping, which is effectively the mapping of a sphere. So that's a really, really important result. And actually the cylinder and the box mapping each have that kind of property. So we'll look at those in the next video. See you in the next video.